Hello, my absolutely beautiful Capricorn friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2022, where Capricorn, this month, really quite interesting, I think. We've got a massive transiting Uranus coming together with the transiting North Node at 18 degrees of Taurus, lighting up your fifth house space. Now, Mars also gets involved in this as well, and whenever Mars comes to the table, we have a change of direction of some variety. This particular conjunction coming together at the end of this month really speaks to your fifth house getting different. So we're talking about children, joy, pleasure, things that require you to take a risk, true love, romance, expression. Any of these areas are going to give you a shot where Uranus breaks something down and you have to detach or move away or innovate this area of your life, but it happens quite quickly, right? When we're dealing with Uranian energy, it's usually not a slow peel and crawl to what's going to be next. And what you're moving towards next is what we call a destiny point with the North Node. It's not easy to move in this direction because we're still attached to some things on the other side, fixed scorpionic energy, what it's always been, what it used to be like. So we're dancing between the head and the heart, towards the old and the new. And Uranus in this conjunction breaks that down and says, move forward. So is this a new romance? Is this ideas around children? Are your children doing something different? Are you taking on a project this month that really involves you taking some kind of risk? And whenever I think risk, and also looking at the fact that we've got an abundance of energy moving into Leo season, which lights up your eighth house, one of the first things I think of are the stockbrokers, right? Or anybody in the financial arena. Are you going to start investing in stocks or crypto, or you're starting some kind of financial venture that seems a bit risky, but you're actually willing to take it on? Whatever it is, have no doubt that by the time we move into August, a shift or a change around this fifth house area for you could be very pronounced. And I do want to say this as well. Fifth house tends to do with children, right? And ideas around children, but also you are someone's child. So I also read the fifth house in that way. So are you making a break or a change around your parent or something like that? We can also see that creeping in here as well. All right, let's get in here, Capricorn, and see what the month has to offer. As we're coming in on the 5th, a little bit of a busy energy. We've got Mars moving into the energy of Taurus, fellow Earth energy, so relatively comfortable, but Mars makes things change directions, mostly because we get active. We get into action, or we create a strategy, which again is action, right? We become some version of a useful verb in our life. So lighting up your fifth house space with this energy in Taurus, what you're looking to do with Mars here is create something that is a long-term resource for yourself. So if this is romance, if this is something around children, if this is a project that you want to conceive, right? You want to conceive a child, you want to begin an adoption, you want to conceive a business, you're ready to do something like that. The conception and the movement of all of that gets to happen with Mars here in Taurus, but it's about long-lasting resource satisfaction, okay? Now, on the same day, we're going to see Mercury move into the energy of Cancer, which lights up your 7th house space. So in this first half of the month, really until we get to the 19th, there's a focus on relationships for you and what's going on in your relationships and how you're showing up in relationships to guide them along. My spiritual teacher says my problems come from me, not at me. And then I'm assigned the task of finding the divine energy in the other person in order to relieve the tension of the relationship. So as Mercury is here in the energy of Cancer, first of all, I will say that I think that it's a wonderful movement because it brings the conversation at a deeper, more emotional, connected, these are in my roots kind of truth conversation to the table that you can make decisions with. And sometimes, depending on the state of your relationship, you're just having that ushy, gushy, delicious, like gut level conversation that makes you feel free and supported and connected and heard and seen in your relationships. And other times it can make it feel like I'm trying to hear this other person, but my emotions are in the way, right? Like the head and the heart are not in alignment because my thinking is is all emotional instead of any critical observation. So on the scale of that spectrum, you'll have to see what's showing up in relationships for you. And it can go the other way. Do you feel like you're trying to share something with somebody and their emotions are in the way and they can't actually hear what you're saying? Time to use that Mars in Taurus and get a different tactic, okay? On the 13th, we're going to have a full moon in the energy of Capricorn. So right there in your sign, the full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or make an adjustment, bring something to culmination. Let's bring it to an ending here. Now at 21 degrees of Capricorn and in your sign, it's like, okay, it's time for a peeling. It's time for a shedding. It's time to realize that in some capacity, you have done the very best that you can in some areas. So now it's time to surrender that self, but also make adjustments for this next version of yourself to move out into the world. And for some people, that may be being seen a bit more, taking a risk, stepping into a role that requires more responsibility and more authority, taking on an obligation. And for others, I think it can be the shedding of those same concepts as well. So you'll have to let me know in the comment section, are you taking it on or are you letting it go as we get to this full moon energy, okay? On the 17th, we see Venus now moving into the energy of Cancer, and this is great. I will tell you, around relationships, if you've needed to turn the volume down a little bit, or you need some ease, you need some peace in your relationship, some joy, some play, some pleasure, some good food, some socialization, Venus will draw this into the relationship area of your chart. Now, I also think personally, that Venus in Cancer, because Venus is so comfortable there, you might be feeling like having some sexy time. Now, whether that's with yourself, with somebody else, with other people, whatever that looks like in your life, Venus is like, listen, I'm feeling really good. I feel at home. I feel pleasureful. I feel like raising the vibration. So whether sexy time looks like sex and sexy time, or pleasure principle for you to be meeting looks like I want to buy something extravagant for my home, or I want to do something that solidifies this relationship, Venus can be felt in that particular pull, okay? On the 19th, we see Mercury now in the energy of Leo. On the 22nd, the sun moves into Leo, and on the 28th, we've got a new moon in the energy of Leo, and this begins a conversation of your 8th house energy, joint resources, intimacy, you see into me, sex, fear, shame, doubt, recovery, healing, astrology, they all live in this 8th house energy. Now, the other piece of this, though, Capricorn, is like, what is this financial risk or this financial jump? And I just don't want to leave it at financial. It's like a collaborative risk you're ready to take on at this time where you're like, I don't know if I should be moving in with this person, but I'm ready to give it a try. I'm ready to take this leap and go in this direction. I don't know if I should be buying cryptocurrency, but I'm going to take a leap and I'm going to invest in that. I don't know if it's time for me to put my business out there, but I'm going to take a leap. I don't know if it's okay for me to not carry the baggage of my shame and doubt and trauma anymore. And I'm going to maybe be willing to release that, because that's as great of a risk as anything else. To love or not to love, to be free or to not be free. These are all the risks that we take as human beings, right? So now you're deciding which one is right for you. But whatever one you decide, it's got to be the kind of decision that makes it so that you Leo, that you fire sign, right? Our fire signs don't just get us up out of bed in the morning. They get us up out of bed in the morning and they're like, F yeah, I'm awake. So what decisions for you light you up like that, with that excitement of joy and pleasure and risk, okay? Now, also on the 28th, when we're going to have that new moon in the energy of Leo at 5 degrees, plant your seeds of intention to begin that newness here. What would you like to experience in your 8th house? Are you calling in a partner? Are you calling in deeper intimacy? Are you calling in deeper commitment? Are you calling in an ending to this forever real estate and estate planning transactions that came from a will from 100 years ago, and you're like, I'm over it, I want to be done with it? What are you calling in? Use the new moon in order to enact that energy, okay? Also, later in the day on the 28th, we've got Jupiter stepping into its retrograde at 8 degrees of Aries, moving all the way to 28 degrees of Pisces. Now, Jupiter's retrograde here in Aries is really about your fourth house space, Capricorn. Okay, so as Jupiter is going retrograde, we're rethinking, revising, re-editing philosophies. What have you believed around family for a very long time, and maybe those ideas or ideals are outdated in the space of the reality that you're living into? Where is there a plan or a goal or a design or an expansion that you thought you wanted to take on, and you're revisiting this at this time? I really think for so many of you Capricorn energies this month, really some ideas that have guided you for 20 plus years, at least for 12 plus years, are under revision right now. I never want to get married. I never want to have children. I never want to own a business. I'm never going to do stock. I'm not, whatever the never evers were going to be, you might find yourself never evering like you have never before, with a new willingness, because you're rethinking the philosophies that stood underneath them as the grounding, and now you see it as something else. The whole point is to review this area so that you can expand, you can grow based on some wisdom and taking a risk, okay? To close out the month, we get to the 31st, and we're going to see Uranus in conjunction with that North Node, 18 degrees of Taurus, lighting up this fifth house space. And I'm telling you, some of you are you're gonna put it in the chat box. I just know it. You're gonna be like, Stormie, listen, I met somebody on Bumble and we live together. Like, I don't know what happened, but we live together. And it's not to say that that is bad, right? Like, you'll know something in you, and maybe it's not something highly intellectual, but something in your gut of resource will know that this was a destiny meetup, right? Some of you may be like, no, listen, I had to get away from this person. This was not the thing. Some of you are going to launch that art out, start that project, do that whatever, and it may feel like you took this sudden leap or this sudden push to go do it. And that is exactly, I think, the usefulness of this energy, as Uranus comes and detaches us from some stuff from the past, puts us in positions, brings us circumstances that make us learn that we can't function off of what was. It's definitely time for what's new. So, ooh, Capricorn, please let me know in the comment section down below what these changes are in your life, how they're showing up, what you're experiencing. If you're listening to this and you get to, August 2nd and you're like, Stormie, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Let me know in the comment section down below, because I am not here to blow up your month and tell you what it's supposed to be. I'm telling you about the signatures in the sky. I want you to tell me how they manifest in your life. That's how we learn and grow in astrology together. All right, beautiful Capricorns, I love you a bunch, and I will see you next month. Bye, Cap.